I'm so excited. I'm here with Elle McCann. She is an expert in so many things, but the most important one for today is Shopify. I'm so excited to have Elle here. So I'll tell you guys a little bit about Elle. So she's a serial entrepreneur. So she's brilliant when it comes to business. A fun fact is that she loves dogs more than most people, which I think is so sweet. And she's a new mom. So she's got a lot of hats that she's juggling. And then she also, y'all, 185 Shopify stores. That's crazy. That's how many, Elle, you said you've created?
Yes, not just for myself, but for clients as well.
That's a lot of Shopify stores.
Yeah.
So Elle, tell us a little bit more about you, and also for everybody. Elle and I met a few weeks ago, and to be honest, the moment I met her, I was like, she's my people. She's very smart. She's very data driven and analytical. She knows her business, and she's doing it all as being a mom. So I just felt like we connected very quickly and easily. So I'm so happy you're here, Elle.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me, Ashley. I'm excited to be on the podcast.
All right, so tell us a little bit more about your kind of history with Shopify, a little bit more about you and your business.
Yeah, so I always love to say that about dogs. I'm a huge dog person, and actual like huge dogs. Like my first dog was an Irish Wolfhound, so I like the horse-sized dogs.
Mm.
But that's actually what made me really get started with business in the first place. I had just gotten a little puppy and 2 month old, and I was working at an ad agency in Nashville doing a long commute, long days, and I just hated leaving him in the crate and leaving him. And I just said from that point, and I promised him, I was like, I promise, like, I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to make this work. I'm going to work from home, and I'm going to get to spend all my time with you. And it took about 2 years, but then I did it, and I never left home since. So definitely a big driving motivator for me.
I
But
love that.
yeah.
I read recently that one of the ways that business owners can be so successful is we all just really find our why. And a lot of times it's not a why belief, it's actually a who. Like that, your dog was your why and your who. Ugh.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and now I have a son, and so it's nice getting to be at home with him throughout the day, and that definitely tied into it. But, 20-something-year-old me had no idea that kids were coming down the line. And so it was just, hey, how do I get to play with my dog all day? And that was definitely a motivator for me for sure.
Ugh, I love that. I love that. That's very exciting. And I mean, I feel like things have gone really well since you've worked really hard for a long time, and it seems like everything's in a really good spot for your business.
Yeah, I've definitely gone through many different seasons of life and different types of businesses. So my very first business, backing up, I guess, I went to college for web design and development. So I have a strong graphic design background as well. And I started doing some freelance web design work while in college. And I also started after college to try and stay at home with my puppy, a wedding invitation business. And that was kind of what kind of got me my first step into e-commerce. I was just designing different invitations and things and trying to sell it online. I had pieced together a WordPress site with 1,000, it felt like, plugins to make it all work. And then new to the scene was Shopify. This was way back in 2010, where Shopify was nowhere near what it is now, but it was still steps ahead of the competition at that time.
Yeah.
And so I switched and built the wedding invitation business on Shopify, and really just fell in love with the platform and where they were going and what their visions were. And I started just kind of going to more kind of events, primarily for the wedding invitation business, and meeting other small business owners that were also having problems with their website and it not working for them. And so over time, it kind of got to where I realized that while the wedding invitations was fun, there was definitely some not so fun parts of dealing with people on very special days that made it a little stressful. And I just figured out that my passion was really more with the web design aspect. So I sold the wedding invitation business and have been building on Shopify ever since.
Wow. So you kind of have made all of this happen on your own. Like you figured out how to do your own first Shopify site on your own, right?
Yeah, I definitely think I had a strong help having a web development background. I feel like I can figure things out pretty quickly. And at that time, so I was actually one of the first 50 Shopify experts that got certified. So they were pretty heavily trying to like get more designers and developers on. So I got some training through them. And I think just being such an early adopter, I got to see it go through so many different stages and really kind of figure out my own niche in that world as well.
Yeah. I feel like you're the most qualified person to speak on Shopify ever.
Oh, well, thank you.
That's awesome. And if you're listening right now and you have a Shopify store, I've even learned so much just from looking at her website and some of the things I wouldn't have even known to ask about. So I want to share some of the things that I know like some questions people have. And before I ask those questions, even if you don't have a Shopify site, a lot of what Elle teaches, and Elle has a really good resource she's going to share with you guys too. Even if you don't have a Shopify website, some of the stuff that we're going to talk about today is going to be really important to your business and maybe a future business, even if you don't have one today. So I'm so pumped that there is no one else that's more qualified to talk about this. And Elle, you have, for how many years have you been educating on Shopify? And then I'll jump into these questions, but how long? I mean, how many videos do you have on YouTube?
Oh my gosh. I have like 275 videos. This is my 14th year. I've been on YouTube since I think 2015. So I've been doing it for a while. But I think because of that, I think been blessed to find something that I was so passionate about at a young age that the industry overall has grown. So it's let me really grow my career with it as well.
Yeah. Well, one day, Elle, we're going to have another 2.0 conversation about YouTube. But today,
oh yes,
today, I think it's a great place to talk about Shopify. So first of all, for someone who actually, let's just pretend they have a business idea in mind and they've not actually created their Shopify store yet. Can you just tell them an overview of what Shopify is and why you lean towards Shopify if you're going to sell products online?
Yeah, I'm a little biased. I do love Shopify, but honestly, I've looked at other platforms throughout my entire career and thought, okay, it's a little nerve-wracking, like putting all of my business to one platform. So I kind of looked at different ones, but I just really do feel like Shopify is the best solution out there. They're an all-in-one e-commerce platform, and they make it really easy for you to build your online store, add products, manage inventory, and also just setting it up for scale. So as you grow your business, they've got wholesale capabilities and all this different functionality that you can add in with third-party apps by adding things like reviews, wish lists, really anything you can think about. There's probably a Shopify app for that, which I think makes it really nice that you're not just kind of boxed in. I've built, like I said, 185 sites for every kind of niche I feel like that you could think of, and every site's different, and there's always been apps and functionality that work no matter what kind of audience, what kind of product it is, and you can always kind of you've got a nice out of the box solution, but you can really customize it pretty easily and make it more unique for your own business.
Yeah, and honestly, because Shopify is so well known and people are using it, it makes sense that it's only going to keep getting better. Like they're going to invest a lot in their platform because there's so many people on it. They want it to be, I mean, Shopify, I imagine, wants Shopify to be the one-stop shop that just keeps getting better when you're selling products online. So it seems like a smart place to start when it comes to building an online product.
Yeah, absolutely. They will roll out pretty much every quarter a bunch of new edits. There's typically like 100 or so new edits.
Wow.
Ranging in any kind of, they have higher tier price points for stores that some of them kind of are just for there, but you can really see like just in the edits that were released this year, how much they're just really like trying to build everything with the merchant in mind, as well as with the end consumer in mind as well, and making it even faster and quicker for them to get to checkout. So I really do feel like they've are always kind of at the forefront of e-commerce. And I think that's why a lot of the really big brands will choose to set up their site on Shopify. And I think that's why they do so well, like with their own stock market evaluations and stuff, because they really are kind of always at the forefront of the new cutting edge technology.
That makes sense. I know from my side of things, and I know we are going to talk about how to get traffic to your Shopify store here in a little bit, but I know from the paid ads perspective that integrating with Shopify. So when I have customers that come to me and they're like, hey, I want to learn more how to do my own ads. When we go to set up their merchant center or set up ads on YouTube or on Meta, the way that they can so easily do that with the apps and integrations on Shopify, it's so nice. Like I'm at a point now where I'm like, hey, I know you're interested in learning your own ad, how to do your own ads, but do you have a Shopify store? And they're like, yes. I get excited because I just know how easy it is to set everything up in Shopify for ad tracking. Like it's a very smart platform.
Yeah, absolutely. I find that a lot of times whenever I'm doing like a YouTube tutorial on something in Shopify, it's really like the setup is like a couple minutes of getting a specific functionality set up. And then it's more about the strategy. So it really does make it easy for you to get started. And then it's just kind of making adjustments for your individual ideal customer that, and how they're going to use that app or your site in general.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. Well, good. Okay, so let's jump into some of this now that we know that Shopify is a really great platform that's only getting better. So, gosh, I want to talk about Shopify tips. So I want to talk about some things that people should consider to do on their Shopify website. And then also maybe some top things that you see, like some mistakes people have. I'll give you a quick example. I have a business owner. She has an online boutique. So she sells a lot of different products online on her Shopify. And so I know for Performance Max ads, which are the shopping ads under Google's format, I know that a lot of like how she names her products, her descriptions, the images she used, a lot of that feeds into Merchant Center. So I know there's so many things that she has to think about when she's setting up products in Shopify. So I think what tips or strategies would you give to someone to stand out on Shopify? And then what are some mistakes? And maybe we start with the tips first and then we go to the mistakes, but would love to hear your opinion.
Yeah, I think my biggest tip where I see people kind of not using the full kind of opportunity of building their own site versus using a marketplace kind of like Etsy instead for e-commerce is that they're just not really thinking about exactly who they're serving and how their products help them. So many times I'll ask people, okay, who's your ideal customer? And they'll say, well, everyone. And it's like, well, that's not true. You can't market to everyone. Your product's not going to be for everyone. So just thinking through of exactly who your product's for. So not even just, the gender or demographics, age, things like that, but also like, what are they trying to accomplish with your product? Is it solving a solution? Is it adding a benefit to their life or something, a goal that it can help them achieve? And whenever you can really think through of exactly why someone's going to be looking and searching for your product, then you can really kind of maximize that with your copy on your site to speak to them directly, with how you display the images on your site as well, so that you kind of quickly can give that information to them when they're scanning your site, especially if they came from an ad or anything like that. Let them instantly kind of understand who you are, what your product is, who you serve. But it's also going to be a lot quicker for them to then convert on your site because they feel like, oh, okay, I get this. This is exactly what I was looking for.
Mm-hmm. So what are some specific strategies, maybe one or two things that you could say could help with that?
Yeah, so I think a lot of times when people buy, kind of going into the psychology of that, when we're shopping online, we've got either analytical shoppers or we've got emotional shoppers. And sometimes you can be a little bit of both. I definitely am a mix of both. An example I always like to give was whenever I was up late at night with my newborn baby who was not sleeping well. I was 100% an emotional shopper because it was, 2 a.m. and it was like, how do I get this baby to sleep? And so I'm here on Instagram at 2 a.m. going, oh, wait, hold on. Here's an ad for this product that, mimics the womb and zips them in. And it didn't matter how much it cost. It was just, hey, there's all these reviews. There's all this science behind it. I didn't even care. Take my money. How soon can it get here? Can I pay expedited shipping? Because I was from a place of, looking for a solution very quickly to a problem that I was having. I wasn't going to be spending weeks researching the products. That was more when I was building out the baby registry,
Right.
that I was looking and, researching everything. But in the heat of the moment, I did not care. Just give me, the photos, give me some mom reviews, and let me add it to my cart as quick as possible.
Mm-hmm.
So I think thinking about who, again, your ideal customer is and adding some things to your product page and your ad copy that kind of speaks to both kind of shoppers, because you're going to have, no matter what your product is, you're going to have people that are analyzing things and researching for weeks before they purchase. And then you're going to have people that purchase instantly. So having those things on your product page that speak to both of them, where you have, your sizing guide and your tips, your material, washing instruction, all of that kind of stuff for the analytical person, as well as some reviews, as well as for the emotional shopper, having some images that relate to them, having some key benefits highlighted on the site. Also, reviews can go for emotional shoppers as well. But really just mapping out, not only who your ideal customer is, but what's going to make them purchase from you or what's going to make them scared to purchase from you, so that you can kind of address both of those on your product page.
Mm-hmm. I like that a lot. It's funny you talk about reviews. I think everyone knows that they're important, but I think there's many business owners that don't know how to gather them, how to incorporate them on their website properly. I actually have, with the small business owners I work with, I have an entire week where we focus on testimonials and reviews. And I'm sure incorporating that into Shopify is really important, because for some, and I don't know this, so you'll have to tell me, for someone to write a review on Shopify, like if I purchased a product on a Shopify website, to write a review for that, I had to have purchased it, right?
Yeah.
And the review, does it go straight into, like, do the reviews feed into Shopify?
Yeah. So if you have it set up, it'll feed into and then automatically display on your product page.
That's cool. That's nice. Yeah. Reviews are so important. Okay. Let's see.
Yeah.
Any
I
other?
would say go ahead.
Yeah, no, you go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say with that, I think it's really nice to automate things. I have multiple e-commerce stores myself, and then also for clients. I don't like to do a lot of that where it's an ongoing thing. I'm all about the automation. So one of my favorite review apps on Shopify is called Loox, Loox. But what I like so much about it is that it's automated the reviews process. So you can say, okay, 7 days after my product has shipped, send an email asking for the reviews. They can then have the whole kind of review follow-up sequence, add the review in. They can, request photo or video reviews. But then also with that app, it still ties into your Google Merchant Center. So it'll actually display that review not only on your Shopify site, but on your Google ads as well, or in the Google shopping feed, which is really, really nice that you can expand that as much as possible.
That is what I'm talking about, Elle. I did not know that was a thing. I could have been telling all of the business owners that have a Shopify store about this. Okay, so it's called Loox, Loox.
Yeah, that's my favorite app. I've used it for 5+ years at this point. And there's other review apps out there, but I think as much as you can take things off of your plate and not have to, especially as you're scaling, not have to do more of that kind of day-to-day management, but just set it up once. It takes about 30 minutes to customize everything, get everything linked in, and then you can just let it go automatically. And then of course, review the reviews that are submitted. You can then take any photo reviews or reviews and use that as user-generated content for social media. But it's one of those things where if you can just set it up just once at the beginning, it can really save a lot of time and also work for itself in terms of marketing your business moving forward too.
Oh, that's so helpful. If of anything someone could invest their time in, I feel like automating the review process, because I always say you have not because you ask not. So you actually could have more reviews if you actually had a process that was automated to ask for them and gather them. Okay, good. That's super helpful. What other Shopify tips before we move into the what to avoid? Anything else you can think of that's top of mind?
Yeah, I would say also always think about how people can purchase more from you. There's always going to be someone who is going to purchase more from you, whether they come back and purchase an additional time or they add an additional product to their cart that they maybe weren't anticipating adding at first. So one of my favorite ways to do that is by doing upsells or cross sells on your site. There's lots of different apps on the Shopify App Store for that. But a lot of times it's just kind of, like you said, asking people if they want something else, or even just letting them know that other products exist and kind of pairing similar products together. I think it's a really big missed opportunity that I see time and time again of not just giving people the option to spend a little bit more. And that could be something that, they're already looking for, and you've just made it even easier for them. And it's a way that you can also, sell more after they've purchased on your site as well. But
Yeah.
especially when you're thinking about all the time and energy it takes to get people to your site, whether that's organic content that you're creating or it's paid ads and you're spending the money, why not try and recoup some of that time and cost by having people potentially buy something additional? So I think when you're thinking about your ideal customer, and again, what would make them buy, like what additional products would they be interested in as well? And how can you kind of promote that as well? So that way you're using that language that's going to make them go, oh, you know what? I didn't really think I was going to need this, but that actually would be really great. And let me add that to my cart as well.
Yes. I have a story that relates to
Ooh.
exactly this. So I have a girl that enrolled in the Marketing Matters program. She does aesthetics. So someone came in and I think they were doing like maybe it was a facial, and they were also doing some waxing services. Like she had a few different things, but this customer had worked with her for 3 years. And she came in and was sitting in her chair. She was like, "Yeah, I've really just been trying to find the right place. This formal's coming up, and I want to find, a spray tanning place that I can trust." And the owner is like, "We do spray tanning." And she was like, "What?" Because it's so often we actually have a solution where we could actually help people, just like you say, but we're thinking, "Oh, if they want that, they'll figure it out on their own." The
Yeah.
worst thing that could happen is you have someone who has a need that you could serve, and we don't even mention it. So I think
Mm-hmm.
that's a good example, regardless of your type of business. What else might someone want? If someone's coming into your salon to take care of their visual, their confidence, they want to feel really good. I mean, I truly believe that when you feel better, you do better. And a lot of
Yeah.
times feeling better, it's just funny. Something about when I draw on my eyebrows and put my mascara on, I just feel a little bit better. And so I think it's one of those things where we forget to ask for that. So I think that's a very good point, is you're missing out on revenue and on serving people by not having an upsell or an order bump or whatever it may be. That's so smart.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times when I talk to other female entrepreneurs, they'll say, "Oh, well, I don't want to be too salesy." Which, A, first, you're in sales, you have an online store, and B, you don't have to, come from a salesy kind of view. You can kind of just look at it as, how can I serve better? How can I help them accomplish their goals quicker? How can I solve this problem even faster for them? So whenever you think about it in terms of like helping educate or helping them more, it doesn't feel salesy. It's just another way that you can serve that customer more.
Mm-hmm.
So I think kind of reframing that, because again, there's always going to be people that want to buy more. I always will pick the VIP one-on-one package because time is precious to me. So if I can get in and get it done quickly, that is far more valuable to me than having it be a longer kind of period of time for anything. And so there's always going to be people like that. There's going to be people that want to just purchase one thing and then try it out first before they have, another purchase from you. And that's where it's more in your automated email sequences that are following up with them after. But I think once you get the first sale, that's great, but it's what's next after that. How can you continue to nurture that relationship so that they know that you have more to offer, and that you can keep building that year after year?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I forget what the stat is. I read this book. It's called How to Get Paid for What You Know. And I'll link to it somewhere in this video, but it was a great video. And one of the things he says is it's like Apple creates one version of their computer that has a certain level of storage and certain capabilities, but there's always different tiers. It's kind of like trim levels in cars. It's kind of how
Mm-hmm.
he explained it in the book. But I'm pretty sure you can buy a Mac for $1,200, or there's like a $5,000 version of a Mac that I'm pretty sure you can buy that has like all of these extra capabilities. And no matter what your business is, whether it's selling a t-shirt or selling, skincare or air vents, whatever it is that you're selling, someone wants the best, highest quality version. And I think he said in his book, it was like 10 to 20% of all people will opt for that higher priced option. So if you don't have that option, you're missing out. And one retail example that happened with my husband, I forget the name of the brand, but he wanted to buy these t-shirts. And they had this deal where if you bought a pack of 5 shirts, you got a pair of shorts for free. And if someone's wearing athletic wear, they probably could benefit from more athletic wear.
Yeah.
And apparently these are their top selling shorts. So they made an option where if once you buy 5, you get to have their top selling pair of shorts for free. Well, guess what? He loved the shorts. And guess what he did? He went and bought 3 more in every color. They made money by giving him a bonus. And now they could have done it. They could have actually charged for that. They probably should have, but there was an incentive to buy 5. I just think there's so many opportunities where we miss out. And you're exactly right. If we don't set that up, we're absolutely missing out on the people that actually would love to have more. So smart.
Yeah, absolutely. And like your husband's example, like he may have come to the site just wanting to buy 1 or 2 shirts. So he may have never intended to get 5 or the shorts, but then it was promoted in such a way to where it spoke to him and he was already intent on buying 1 or 2. So it just made sense to spend a little bit more, get more value. And now he's a raving customer and purchasing more. So it definitely, I think, having different price points of products or even bundling products like that makes sense for just different types of audiences within your ideal customer.
Yeah. Very helpful, Elle. Okay. Let's move to Shopify mistakes. So I'm sure you see people set up Shopify stores all the time. And you probably could look at a website and be like, uh-oh, there's a few things I would change. So what are some of those common things that you would say that you see more often?
So one of the common things, and probably my biggest pet peeve
Ooh.
personally, I'm just going to go ahead and air this out, is not having a kind of more filled out about page. One of the top pages on your site is the about page. And I think a lot of that really kind of goes into credibility. There's so many different online stores now. So people are wanting to make sure, okay, are you trustworthy? If I purchase from you, am I actually going to get my product? But even more so, I think with the age of social media and so much noise, it's nice to see a little bit more behind the scenes, hear about who started the business, why they started it. So I always like to include on my about pages, copy not only about the business founder as well as the story, photos, of course, some of the founder's favorite products and, blog posts, an email newsletter sign up, and really kind of build that out because it is going to be one of the top pages that people go to on your site. And time again, I go to about pages whenever I'm reviewing a store and it's like 2 paragraphs, no pictures, and it's just such a missed opportunity for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no one wants to buy from a robot. We
Yeah.
want to buy from a human that we know, and at least, like you said, credibility. People, no one buys when there's a lack of credibility. So I feel
Yeah.
like that's a very good point. One of the things I teach in the program, and I want your opinion on this if you agree with this, for the about page. I think so often all people talk about on the about page is them.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's a miss because the reason someone's actually there is because they're trying to see if you can help them.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think so often it's like, I have managed all of this, 200 million in ads, and I can do this, this, and this. But what I think they want to get to know the founder a little bit. But what they really want is, how can you help me? And I feel like sometimes that's missed on the about page where they forget that it's not just about you, it's about how you serve them. Do you agree?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think having a kind of mission area, not just, your kind of run-of-the-mill mission statement, but like, why did you start the business and who are you trying to serve? Even where it's, you can add taglines of making fashion affordable or whatever kind of solution that you're trying to solve. I think definitely highlighting on the about page and even who our products are for, having a section like that where you can have some key call outs of benefits or features of your product, I think is great to add in.
I agree. That's very helpful. So right now, everyone needs to go and add to their to-do list as one of the top things to make sure their about page is in a good spot. Have the pictures, have a little bit about you, but make sure you're talking about who you can serve. That's very helpful. What else can you think of for Shopify mistakes?
Yeah, I would say also just not having a plan. I can't remember which movie it was, but the whole build it and they'll come whole tagline strategy is not a
Yes.
thing. I don't know why people think it's a thing. I'll get comments on my YouTube videos or I'll get emails that say, oh, well, I've launched my store a week ago and I have had 0 sales. Well, okay, what are you doing to get sales? How are you driving traffic to the site? And a lot of times it's people spending so much time and energy on getting the store launched, which I get it. I am also a Virgo firstborn perfectionist. And I will totally spin my wheels making everything look just right. But you've got to also have a what's next step of, okay, now you've built everything out. It's beautiful. Your products are great. Your photos are great. How are you going to get people to know that you exist and that they need your product? So actually having kind of a game plan of what kind of content am I going to be posting on social media? What am I going to be talking about in my email newsletters that tie back into the vision of the business or the products? How are you going to promote your products to where it doesn't feel like you are just, your social media is just constant buy my products, but you're also still speaking to your ideal customer through different stories that you're sharing or different kind of behind the scenes that you're showing behind of your products or your brand. I think having a strategy that incorporates both some organic marketing as well as paid advertising, and just knowing exactly like how you're going to keep going and what kind of content you're going to keep kind of trying to associate with your business and talk to your ideal customer directly, whether that's through groups that you're posting in online, trying to get people to know that you exist, or building out a YouTube channel, whatever it is. I think having a key plan of how you're going to consistently talk to your ideal customer is really key. And I say the consistency because it's really easy to kind of create something once and then go, oh, well, Facebook post, that didn't work. I didn't get any sales from that. But it really does take time and some consistent effort to start seeing the sales kind of come in. And then I think you really do get in a flow to where you can kind of figure out what kind of schedule works for you, for especially organic, of what kind of posting schedule that you could do that you can keep up weekly, month after month, year after year, and still kind of be creating content that really highlights your products, but also is helpful for your ideal customer.
Yeah. And if you're listening, Elle has done this. She doesn't just say to do this. Elle has done this because Elle, don't you have like 40 to 50,000 followers? Is it more than that on YouTube?
I'm about to hit 50,000. Yeah. So
Yeah,
definitely a celebration coming.
There absolutely is. And Elle knows what she's talking about. I think so often it's like, hey, don't give up, keep going. But you're a perfect example of what happens when you keep going and you keep serving and you keep putting content out there and have a plan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I look back at my whole kind of journey as an entrepreneur, I think the one word that I think has served me the best is persistence, because I'm a very persistent person. I will wake up every morning chronically optimistic and ready to tackle the day. And I think that's really served me the best for the last 14 years, because there have been so many what I think people would consider as failures. But for me, it was just lessons learned where maybe you're sad about it for a couple hours or a day that things didn't work out how you thought, but then you just pick yourself up and you try again and you take whatever lesson you've learned from that. But a lot of times I've realized that the overnight successes you hear are typically like a decade in the making. And so it's really just about having the right attitude and mindset to show up day after day.
Couldn't agree more. I think it's the only reason. I think it's the only way that people can be successful, honestly, is you chronically optimistic. I'm going to use that. So that is so true though. And I actually relate to that. We all have bad days. We all have days where we're like, oh, why did I even start this thing? I think that's happened. However, I haven't had a day like that in a long time, because I really do wake up and just like you said, when something doesn't work out, it actually either worked for your business or it worked on you, which means you got better, which means you learned something. So I completely agree. So, okay, have a plan for your website and be consistent. I think that's very true. And I will say, Ellen, I know this, paid ads work. And I hear all the time, I just started my Shopify website. I don't have any sales. I can't do ads. I would ask, can you afford not to? Because you have to get, I think the dream combination, in my opinion, and Elle, I want your thoughts on this too, is if you have a plan for organic and you have a plan for paid, if you keep building on those consistently, people will find your website. But just like you said, and the movie is called Field of Dreams. I looked it up.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember it in my head, but you're right. You can't just build it and they will come. That won't work in business because no one knows that you exist. And honestly, you probably created a Shopify, and I'm just guessing, but you probably created a Shopify website for something similar that someone else does. So you have to stand out. or you can't even stand out if no one knows that you exist. So you've got to have a plan to get in front of the right people who need you.
Yeah, and I think doing paid advertising can be a really helpful component in just the initial testing out of your products before you even are going into a full scale up of trying to get more sales, but even just testing and saying, okay, what headlines convert people the most? What kind of imagery works? Because whenever I'm kind of getting data from paid ads, I'm not just making the changes on the ads themselves. I'm then going to the product pages or the landing pages on my site and changing the ads and the text there as well, just to see how people are responding. Because a lot of times we're building the Shopify store kind of along the lines of what we like, what we don't like. We're
Yes.
thinking about the ideal customer, but we're all kind of building it, quietly away from everyone else and then going, ta-da, I've launched this thing. And so it's so helpful with paid ads to get some really quick feedback of what's working, what's not working, testing out just a lot of different things, and then making those changes across your website, your email, your content, all of that as well.
Yeah. I think that's one of the whole idea of we call it cross-channel learnings when I was working at the ad agency. It's what can you take from one channel where you learned something and apply it somewhere else. One example is for YouTube ads. So often some of the bigger brands that I had worked with when we would do YouTube ads, say they have a $50,000 budget and they're like, hey, that's for all video. Maybe that's TV and YouTube. I would always recommend start with YouTube, test 3 or 4 different videos, see what they're resonating with, and then use those videos that are driving the most lift and performance and use that for your TV spot, because you can get really good learnings from YouTube, more so than you can on TV, in my opinion. And then you can take maybe those videos will work on your Instagram or on TikTok or on even embedded as a video in your email if you're looking for a certain mission. I think so often people forget, hey, I ran this ad and it didn't work. Well, it did work maybe on you, but what did you learn from it? And how can you apply that to other areas of your business? So I think that's very smart. You may find that one of your ads that you ran, maybe the headline maybe you tested the same image, but different headlines, and you were trying to see what drove, the biggest engagement. And then you learn from that and use that as a headline in your email. It all can work together really well. And I think that's where there's an opportunity for business owners, small business owners specifically, is how many ways can I apply what I learned from this one thing, even if it didn't go as planned?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I would say, so an example from my business, so one of my Shopify stores, I wrote and designed 2 different children's books. And I had hired on Fiverr a photographer I sent them the products, and they got photos of their children reading the books, and they were so cute. And I just absolutely was so excited about it. Couldn't wait to run ads, put all the photos up on my site. And the ads didn't do well because it was the kids sitting there reading by themselves. And then I decided, okay, let me try something else. So then I hired the same photographer to take photos with the mom reading the book with the kid in her lap. Oh my gosh, the ads performed so much better because it was the moms purchasing and they were excited about getting to read with their child. Their child reading the book, okay, cool, but they could get books at school. But the idea of the mom getting to read the book with the child was way more performing. And so then I was able to then kind of take that data and go, okay, how do I get, different types of moms? How do I get different types of children and expand out the audience there? And then also adding more of that kind of copy to my site about having the experience with your child and not just, like you said, just doing it one thing here, but taking that information. And now if you look at the site, it's always about, having the experience together, reading, making things enjoyable as a family, and not just specifically a book for a child. So yeah, I think paid ads can be really, really valuable insight.
You know what I love about what you just said?
What?
Outside of all of it, I really loved that you said you ran paid ads and that first image didn't work. You know what some people do when that first image doesn't work and they don't get overnight success?
They stop. Yeah.
They stop. They stop. They say, that was too painful. I'm done. That didn't work. And they move on. You, Elle, which is why you are where you are. You're like, why is this not working? Let's try something else. And I feel like that's why it's one of the millions of reasons that you're probably so successful, or that's one of the million reasons why you are so successful, is because you are willing to keep trying and say, okay, why? and you kept iterating. And I think that's so important in anything.
Yeah, I think something that's served me, I love personal development. I'm always reading books around that. One of the things that I feel like has served me over the years is I created a win list. So anytime I have something big that I do, or even just small, I have a win list that I add it to. But then I also will have like my hard lessons list. So things that have not worked out before, things that, I felt like was a regret, things like that, to where it's helpful whenever something doesn't work out. You can use it as kind of a comparison and be like, okay, well, I've gone through worse. Things have been harder and I still made it through. So I can do whatever I want to do. I went through childbirth. I can do whatever. Like everything is possible now. And I think it's really helpful just for a mental state to go, okay, this didn't work. No problem. I've dealt with worse. Keep going. Look at how great things can turn out if you just keep going.
I love that. The one thing that I've tried, I've not done the wins list and the things that didn't work out list, but I'm going to do that now. Something else that I have heard people say in the past is when things did go well, what were you doing during that period? What was your mindset like? How are you behaving? How much sleep were you getting? Because if you look back into when things were really going, there's probably something that was consistent that you felt or did. And so a lot of times if we're trying to figure out whatever that is, we can kind of go back and reference that. So.
Yeah, I've heard before that like you can tell how you're doing in life based on your last, I think it's like 72 hours. Like how were were you eating healthy? Were you exercising, sleeping, all those things that we know we need to be doing. But a lot of times, like for me, journaling is a huge one for me. Like if I don't journal every day, I start feeling it because I'm in my head too much, where journaling helps me get things down on paper and process things better. But yeah, I think thinking about what is it that's kind of your mental list of like habits that you can start building around that just helps you show up as your best version. And setting up some kind of routine will really help you, like you said, kind of accomplish anything because you've got this kind of self-care baseline personal development that you're already doing as well.
So if you're listening, what you've learned so far is that you can do anything with your Shopify store if you believe that you can do it. And if you're willing to test and learn, we could just leave it there, Elle.
Yeah.
No,
Truly, though, belief is very powerful. And I think a
yes,
lot of times people will succeed or they won't, depending on if they think they can do it or not. And if they're willing to put in the effort and try if things don't work out the first time around.
I completely agree. So speaking of that, Elle has put together a few things that can help you with your Shopify store if you're listening. So Elle, before you share about that, because I feel like people need that. If you have a Shopify store, you need what you have to offer on what you've created. So I want you to share about that. But before we go, one last question for you is any other thoughts behind Shopify? I know we touched on traffic driving a little bit as well. Is there anything else you want to share when it comes to Shopify before we share how cool what you created for them is?
I would say for that, just picking something, a product or an idea that you're passionate about. I think I definitely saw a rise with drop shipping, especially during the pandemic, where people were just trying to find products that would kind of quickly make sales and make money. And while that is, a business strategy, I find that it doesn't really lend itself to long-term success. You have to be passionate about it to where not only are you wanting to create the store and, source the products and sell them, but you're also wanting to show up and create content, whether that's blog posts, social media content, anything like that around it as well. If you're passionate about it, it's going to be a lot more exciting and easier to continue to show up and keep doing this, whether versus if it's just a product that you're trying to make some quick money off of. And I think a lot of times people can kind of tell as well, just based off how you talk about the business online. If you're really, truly passionate, you don't have to be the ideal customer. A lot of times people are not their ideal customer, and that's totally okay. But do you have empathy for, are you willing to, put yourself in their shoes and create kind of a product and a brand that's going to really help them? I think that's a very important thing to keep in mind too.
I agree. I think the core question that I would have someone ask themselves is maybe you're not the ideal customer, But if you were, would you buy from you?
Yeah.
Because I feel like it's very clear. Like I've seen it before where someone just throws up a Shopify site as quick as humanly possible, gets any product. And you're right. When your heart's not in something, it's not going to work. The quick fixes, I just feel like it won't last long term. So I think it's saying, if I were in the market for some cowboy boots, would I buy from this website that I've created?
Yeah.
So I think that's very helpful feedback. And honestly, I don't think anyone is listening to this and wants a short-lived, quick fix business.
Yeah.
I think we want something that lasts. All right. Any other thoughts before we wrap up?
Oh my gosh, we've covered so many things. I think for me, entrepreneurship is, a journey that I love, and I think something that I love to promote. And I think also just being confident in yourself that, the store that you start right now, like it's going to evolve and it's going to change. Everything doesn't have to be perfect from the beginning. I've worked with clients that will come back with feedback and say, okay, can you make the font size 12-point font to 13-point font? And no one cares. I hate to tell you that, but no one cares. No one's going to say, well, I was going to buy from them, but their font was just a little bit too hard to, I mean, maybe if it's too hard to read, but in general, I think, a lot of times people can get stuck in the got to get everything perfect, only get one kind of first impression. And while I think sometimes that can be true, I think just know that you're going to change and evolve being a small business owner. Your store is going to change, your messaging is going to change, and it's totally okay. You don't have to get it right the first time. You're allowed to make mistakes, you're allowed to make changes, and it's just part of the journey overall.
Yep. I agree with that. And if you're going to sell products, then you need to create a Shopify store and just get started, and knowing that you can keep pivoting and tweaking as you go along. And I can confirm I've never not purchased because of someone's font size. So that's
Right?
good. All right, Elle, for everyone who's sitting here like, okay, Elle's the genius when it comes to Shopify. How can I learn more from Elle? Will you tell them where they can go? And, where would you recommend someone starting? What do they need today if they have a Shopify store?
Yeah, so I do have some online courses that go over how to set up your Shopify store, from everything from creating the products, collections, pages, all of that kind of technical behind the scenes. And then I also have courses that are around the marketing aspect. So kind of what we've been talking about today, figuring out who your ideal customer is, what kind of images are going to make them convert, and setting up your product pages, your website overall to really speak to them, so that you're kind of setting up, I always like to call it a conversion machine, but that's really what I like to view sites at. I don't really want to think about it as just like, an ATM where you can keep kind of taking money out of, but instead kind of a conversion machine where that if I send 1,000 people to the site, I'm going to get 10% of them that either sign up for my email newsletter or purchase a product from me. And you feel confident building a site and kind of a whole kind of funnel system that's going to keep them in your network and start building that community.
That's so helpful. Very,
And
very
of course, I also have YouTube videos as well. Lots of YouTube videos.
Lots of YouTube videos. So she's got a ton of help, but I know there are, if you go to look at Elle's website, which I'm going to link to this video too, so you can take a look, there's so much there that can help you really succeed and win with your store. So I'm so thankful that you took time today. Any last words, Elle?
I think we covered so much, but definitely I think having an e-commerce store creates a lot of possibilities, whether just for you as an individual or for your family. It can really have things set up to where you can have the kind of lifestyle that you want while being able to still work from home, be with your family, provide different opportunities in your life and for others. So I am full for e-commerce and excited to hear what kind of business everybody's in as well.
Yes, I could not agree with that more. All right. I have loved our time together. I cannot wait to see you on the next episode. If you're listening, have a great day.